This was absolutely an impulse purchase. A video for this product showed up in my Pinterest feed. I clicked on that link, then headed over to Sarah's YouTube channel, which I'll link to down in the notes for you. And I was sold like instantly. Like I just clicked, purchased, and then this arrived just a few days later. I'm going to open it for the first time with you so you can see what this is and share in my excitement. All right, before I crack the top, any guesses as to what's inside? Color palettes can be used for so many creative projects, and there are no specific rules on how to use them. That's my kind of tool. You can use as few or as many colors as you like. You can use them strictly as a limited palette, or you can use them as a starting point and add your own colors to expand the palette further. The purpose of these palettes is to provide inspiration and to help reduce the creative block that comes in the process of choosing colors so you can focus on the rest of the creative process with more confidence. Absolutely love that. So let's say I were building a quilt block, which we do once a month for the friendship circle, and I wanted to work with this palette. I could just open up my scrap bin and then find one or two pieces in each colorway there, and I would be basically guaranteed a gorgeous block. So I want to show you what Color Cube 2 looks like. And the outside of the box gives you an idea of the colors that are inside. Very clever. And I feel like Color Cube 2 is more my personal style. I have a preference for the brighter colors, so let me show you some of those. It's incredible. Anyways, I just think this is so fun, and I'm really happy that I can share this joy with you and this really cool tool via the Sewspire Variety Show. Oh my gosh, isn't that gorgeous? Sometimes when you're looking at colors on the monitor, shopping for fabric online, it just becomes overwhelming because there's so many choices. But this gives you the color numbers too. So like if you're trying to create a graphic, say a thumbnail for a video, I do that all the time. No more struggling. I'm excited to hear what you think of this tool. Drop me a comment below. And I'd also really love to know if you too struggle with matching colors. Maybe Sarah's color cubes would be beneficial for you as well. So in this segment, I thought we would test out the color cube system and select the fabrics for my next quilt block, which I will be stitching today with you, as well as with my friends in the friendship circle. So I selected card number 389, and these are the colors that are featured here in this inspiration image. And then when you turn that over to the back, you get some additional information. So we have an emerald, a teal, a raspberry, a blood orange, and a mustard. So I took this handy card to my fabric stash, and I will show you the bits that I selected, which I think coordinate nicely. So for the emerald and the blood orange, I have this little bit. For the teal, for the raspberry and blood orange. And for the mustard. So these are the colors that I am going to craft a house block from in the next segment. This book features 110 quilt blocks in 5 sizes, and it has project ideas. I think it's absolutely genius. I really enjoyed working with this book and found the simple instructions to be just enough for me in my second year as a quilter to be successful. So all of our blocks are 12-inch blocks. So we work here in the 12-inch column, but they give you the measurements for 4, 6, 8, 10, and sometimes 15-inch blocks in this book, which I ordered off of Amazon, and I will link to down in the notes for you. And then there's a handy little diagram that tells you what shapes you need to cut, obviously the measurements of those, and then how, if at all, you need to modify those. So some of them you'll cut diagonally, some of them you will cut crisscross. One of the pieces for this house block actually gets a 45-degree angle cut out of it. So you use your quilting ruler to make that cut accurately. So this is the first thing that I wanted to share with you about the Friendship Circle, which, by the way, is completely free to join and open to anyone who is interested in learning how to quilt. I absolutely started as a novice quilter. The experts in our group were kind and generous and shared tips and helpful suggestions along the journey. It is a wonderful time for you to begin because we have enough knowledge that we could help the beginner. So as mentioned, this month we are crafting the house block. So what I like to do is use my handy guide here to cut out all the pieces, and then I position those on my felt ironing mat. This works really good because the felt kind of clings to the fabric, even though I wish it was just a smidgen bigger. If they could have added 2 to 3 inches to the size of this mat, that would have been perfect for me. But I think its original intention is to fit on an ironing board, so that's the logic, but I'd love to have a bigger one. If anyone is in the felt mat business, there's an opportunity there for you. So I take my pieces and lay them out, and then typically I'll take a photo of that layout so I can look at it on my camera. I find that when you're looking at something with just your eyes, sometimes you can miss little details, like for example, a print might be upside down, or maybe you don't like the way something lines up. It just shows up easier when you look at it through a photo. And then once I get it all laid out, I come on over to my sewing machine and I stitch that in rows, and then I will press in between as needed. So when you're quilting, you're always working with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that is really important. I love my Juki TL2000 QI because it has a very accurate 1/4 inch foot. So it makes piecing a breeze. So as mentioned, I like to start by working in rows. And so I'm just going to start right at the top here and build this first row, lining up those pieces nice and straight, and then using my 1/4 inch seam allowance. Not sure if I mentioned this, but it is not necessary to back stitch when you are piecing fabric. And that one, I don't like how that came together. So I'm going to use my seam ripper. That's one thing that I have learned in these last 2 years quilting. Precision is your friend, as is your seam ripper. So don't get too upset if you have some do-overs. Even the really experienced quilters in our group won't hesitate to rip out a seam if it isn't aligned perfectly. So working with the triangles can get a little tricky because I am still not really familiar like at which end or how to balance those little corners. So sometimes it is trial and error. And I was just a little bit too low on that one. So I want to start over. And that's much better. And now I have row 2 done. In case you can't tell, that's the chimney, this is the roof, this is the front of the house, this here is the siding. And then these two components are going to be crafted in squares, and then I'll join those together. And now I have my major components pieced together. Now I want to take this mat over to the ironing board and press those seams to the dark side. And you can see how handy this felt mat is to move the pieces of this block back and forth. So it is definitely starting to look more like a house, and you can see how the seam allowance is consuming some of that size, so it's getting closer to being able to fit on my mat. Now I'm going to work in the next logical order, join these two squares to create a bigger row, and then I can join the 4 respective rows. And that looks pretty good, I think. You could definitely tell it's a house. This is the door, this is the window, the roof, the chimney, and then the siding of the house. So overall, I think this color card was very helpful in selecting colors that look good together. We crafted a total of 12 blocks in this second season. And when these blocks are finished, they should measure 12.5 by 12.5 inches, because we're going to take the 12 blocks, they were all different, and stitch those together to create a sampler quilt, which we will add some sashing, borders, and binding to. So if this project looks fun to you and you would be interested in learning more about quilting and joining us for year 3 of the Friendship Circle, follow the link down in the notes and it will take you to the course page where you will find the recordings from year 1 and year 2 to date archived, and you could even work through some of those beginner blocks if you're new to quilting and get yourself acclimated before we start up year 3 in September of 2024. So now seems like the perfect time to segue into my organization tip for the week. I spent a year focusing on studio organization with our friends over at Sewspire Studio 365. And as part of that process, I implemented a few strategies that help keep my creative space organized. And I'm going to share 2 of those with you today. The first one is to reset your creative space after each project. So even though this quilt block was a small project, it did create a little bit of a mess. I have scissors over here, a seam ripper here, a ruler, my machine's on, the desk is kind of askew. I have the book, the color card out. This is my microphone here. I still have my rotary cutter with the blade out, and then some scraps. And then of course I had to displace a little bit of stuff to have my work space. So that's the second tip, which is always leave yourself a clean surface. Not every surface has to be clean. I recognize that might be a little ambitious for most of us who have well-stocked craft rooms. But if you could strive to leave one surface clear and ready for your next project, that will make creating more enjoyable for you. So, first tip is reset the space to its original condition. And now I'm ready for my next project. I have a clean work surface. All of my tools have been put back in their original spot, so I know exactly where to find them. And I have my quilt block here ready to show my friends over at the Friendship Circle, as well as the pieces pre-cut that I need to sew this block with them at our monthly meeting. All ready to go on my secondary work surface. And then this surface here is another project that I have in the works, which I would like to show you my first prototype of that in the next segment. So before we say goodbye, I thought I would give you a look at a bag that I recently made. It was by Can Do Patterns, and it's called the Reporter Bag. And this was a project that we sewed together as a group over at Studio 365. And this is the first one that I made. So for this project, I selected a faux waxed canvas. It's black, so you really can't see the distress lines in it, but it's very nice and it's sturdy. And then I selected for the accent an oilcloth material, and I put that on the base as well. So this would be a really long wearing bag that will hide dirt incredibly well. And so what I loved about this design was this angled slip pocket in the front. It's perfect for the phone and keys. And then there is also a generously sized zipper pocket here on the front that is great for those items that you want to keep secure but close at hand. I opted to go with the crossbody messenger strap, which can obviously be worn over the shoulder, carried in hand, or crossbody. And then on the inside, I have one more big slip pocket. This bag holds my planner perfectly, so I was really excited about that. And overall, I love it, but because it was my first one, there are a couple areas where I have a little bit of puckering, and then this oilcloth was somewhat of a challenge to work with because it sticks to the machine deck. So I'm going to make a second one before I put away the pattern while I have it all fresh in my mind, and I'm going to craft it from these pretty prints. So that will be a lot of fun for me. These are Moda prints. For some reason, I want to say it was called Inspiration. And I'll be sure to share photos of that on the Sewspire Instagram and Facebook pages, as well as in the chit chat board over at Studio 365. So speaking of Studio 365, we actually have quite a few members over there who don't join our live sew togethers. And I think in part that might be because it's a relatively new platform and maybe you can't find your way around. So I thought it could be helpful for those of you who are already members of Studio 365 to do a little screen share and show you around and introduce you to some of the features that we have over there. So here I have already logged into Studio 365 under my own profile, Andrea Chapman here. And this is what you'll see as a member. So the chit chat board that I mentioned here is on the left, and you can see this is my Studio 365 circle. And this is where we post and share. Here's a picture of my reporter bag that I shared with the group. And other folks post their projects as well. This is a bag that Melissa made. It's absolutely gorgeous. I share reminders. Hey, don't forget, our Plan to Be Creative meetup is here, and I put the links in there. And so you get a feel for how that's similar to a Facebook page, except this is a secure community with still just 50 members. So you're nice and snug in an intimate community. So I have the ability to post polls and create meetups and such. You're going to want to visit the meetups page as soon as you get here. And this is where you can find our past recordings from previous projects and then our current meetups. So as mentioned, we have the second Can Do Reporter Bag meetup on Thursday, June 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then we're switching to Monday nights where we're going to be making a Place for Everything bag by Annie. And then on Wednesday, July 3rd, we have our Plan to Be Creative meetup. And soon I'll be loading the July schedule into this, and we will be making more fun things. So if you join the Plan to Be Creative community, which is also linked down in the notes, then you will have access to that chat board as well. If you want to log into the live room that I told you about, you could go right into this by clicking live. And if there's already people in there, you'll see a little number like 1, 2, 3. It'll let you know how many people are in there. But that's how you'd access our live room. If you wanted to reach out to a member, you could click this right button and you can see our members list there, and you just click on their name. Here's where you can see your various notifications from the last time you logged in. And then here under PDFs, that's where you can access all of my best-selling PDFs. And these are included in your monthly membership at Studio 365. So the Zip Top Diaper Bag is one of my best-selling bags, and it is just right there, ready for you to click on and download. Studio 365 is set up to be a monthly membership community, so it's $8 a month. So what you can look forward to is access to the PDF library, access to our private live room, our past recordings, as well as the ability to interact with members in the chit chat feed, as well as send them private messages internally. And then there are also periodically challenges, which I post. Here's one that must be completed by June 21st to get the points. You can join these challenges and then head on over here to our leaderboard, and that's where you can rack up some points. Points are also accrued by liking other people's posts, by giving them hearts, by commenting, and such. then when we have events, I'll send out announcements and give you reminders and things like that. But I just think that this is a wonderful space for us to connect in. And I want to keep bringing this to your attention in case you too are looking for a welcoming community of makers and you just had no idea that such a thing existed. We'd love to have you join us over at Studio 365. So just this week in the greater Sewspire community, the Friendship Circle met, and then we have the Can Do Reporter Bag Sew Together within the Studio 365 community. So every week there is an opportunity, some of them free, some of them for a slight fee, for us to come together and sew live. So I hope you'll consider joining us. It's a very welcoming, diverse, inclusive community of makers who are supportive and inspiring. So if you would like a little company while you sew, I'll put the links down in the notes. I would love to see more of you over there. And I hope that the guided tour inspires you to join our live meetups if you're an existing 365 member and you haven't quite yet worked up the courage to jump into those. Or if you're new to Sewspire, I hope this piques your curiosity and maybe you'll become a new member of the Studio 365 community. If not that, we'd love to see you at Plan to Be Creative or the Friendship Circle. And if that doesn't work out for you, we also have the Facebook community group. I have some wonderful moderators over there. That's a very active page. I try to pop in a couple times a month and give a lot of thumbs up and hearts. I love to see what you're doing with the Sewspire tutorials. There's also sewspire.com, which is chock full. Hundreds and hundreds of free sewing tutorials with step-by-step videos, and some of those even have PDF supplements. There's my Etsy shop, which has some of my more popular patterns in it and what I call design boards. And those are supplements to my video tutorials, which you'll find on the YouTube channel. So no shortage of inspiration or connection here within the Sewspire community. I hope you enjoyed this second episode of the Sewspire Variety Show. I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and I hope you have a beautiful week.